Okay, you probably noticed that all of the equations when we were solving the quadratics a minute ago was set equal to 0. So the first thing when you're going to be solving a quadratic, always make sure that it's equal to 0. Another tip, keep the x squared term positive. So you don't want your quadratic to start off with a negative number. If it is negative, you'd need to multiply through by -1 to change that. Keep the quadratic in standard form. That means in order by exponent, usually your x squared term, your x term if there's one, and then your constant. So obviously all of them will not always be equal to 0 when we get them. When we look at example 5, it is x squared equals 100. Now we could move this one where it is equal to 0, but this one is actually easy to see because you can unsquare x squared and unsquared 100. And you know that the square root of x squared is x, square root of 100 is 10 and positive 10. So your answer in the brackets is negative 10 and 10. And if you go plug both of those in, negative 10 squared is 100 and 10 squared is 100. So you know that you've got the correct answer. We look at number 6, it's a little different. In order to get it equal to 0, we've got to move the 16m from the right-hand side to the left. To make 16m be 0, you have to subtract 16m and subtract 16m from this side. And I'm kind of listing this 16m in the middle because there's no m term for me to combine it with. But in order to keep it in standard form, I need the m to be in the middle. So 2m squared minus 16m plus 32 equals 0. Then we're ready to start our factoring process. And I do notice that 2 would come out of the 2, the 16, and the 32. So I'm going to start by factoring out the 2. And then we end up with m squared minus 8m plus 16 equals 0. Now we're going to factor the middle section of this quadratic. So we're going to have an m and an m. We're looking for two numbers we can multiply together to get a positive, but add together to be a negative. So I know that's going to be a negative times a negative. 16 is a perfect square of 4 and 4. And if you do -4 plus -4, you get -8. -4 times -4 gets you 16. So we're going to break this down to 2 times m minus 4 squared. So since this is the same factor, we will only have one answer to this. So we'll have m minus 4 equals 0. Add 4 to both sides, and our solution is 4. Take the 4 up and plug it in your calculator. And if you plug it in this area, when you do this side with the 4, you're going to get a number, and then plug the 4 in for the m over here and get a number, and this number should equal each other. Or you could plug the 4 in this area, and when you get it all plugged in and hit enter, you should get 0. Either way, you can check your answer there. All right, let's move on to example 7. X squared plus 14x plus 39 equals -1. The first problem we see is it's not equal to 0. So in order to make it equal to 0, we got to add 1 to -1 to make 0. And if we add 1 to the right-hand side of the equals, we got to add 1 to the left-hand side. So we'll have x squared plus 14x plus 40 equals 0. Nothing will factor out, so we're ready to break down our factoring. I notice that everything is addition that in the quadratic that we're factoring, so I'll have addition sign and addition sign. So parentheses x, and equal to 0. So x plus 10 times x plus 4. Make sure that'll work. We would have 4x plus 10x would give us 14x. 10 times 4 would give us 40. So we're good on our factoring. X plus 10 equals 0. So x is -10. X plus 4 equals 0. So x is -4. So in our brackets, we would have -10 and -4. And we would go plug them in and make sure that we get a true statement. We can plug in here or we can plug in here. So -10, -4 in brackets. Least to greatest would give you your answer.